Hi, my name is Barbara Nalwega from Group 5. We'll be exploring PPPs through the lens of two case studies, case study 5 and 10. Our goal is to highlight how PPPs serve as a collaborative model between the public sector and the private sector for improved service delivery. PPP is a long-term contract between a government entity and a private party to provide public assets or services, where the private party bears significant risk and management responsibilities. Payment is linked to performance, that is user pay or government pay. Under user pay, the users are charged a fee, and under government pay, the government pays for the service. The contractual terms are typically between 20 to 30 years. They should be long enough in order to align service delivery with design consideration. The key types of PPPs include greenfield, which is an entirely new infrastructure, for example, the Kampala-Jinja Expressway. In this case, the government will provide land and the private entity will build from scratch the asset. And then we have the brownfield, which looks at existing assets being handed over to the private sector for operation and maintenance. Then the yellow field, where projects just need substantial financial investment and revamping. Then some of the functions of PPPs include raising capital. PPPs enable governments to raise capital by using private funding, then sharing risks. PPPs distribute risk between the public and private sector. Leveraging expertise, PPPs enable the governments to take advantage of the innovation of the private sector. Improving public services. PPPs can help ensure that public services are provided more effectively and in a timely manner. And then incentivizing private companies. Private companies are incentivized to manage projects efficiently and effectively in order to minimize financial loss on their part.
Hi, my name is Rita Kamukama. I'll be taking you through the contract types. So under PPP, there is build, own, operate, and transfer, where an entity finances a private entity. It finances, builds, owns, and operates a project for a set period of time, transferring it to the public sector at the end of the agreement. For example, the Bujagali hydropower project, where private developers financed and constructed the dam. Then they operated it for a specific period of time to recoup their investment before handing it over to the government. Sorry. Then we have the design, build, finance, operate, and maintain, where the private sector designs, finances, builds, operates, and maintains the project while retaining operational responsibility under a long-term contractual agreement. We have the Chigumba Masindi Hoima Kawoya Road Project, which includes private investment in the infrastructure, private operation, and a long-term arrangement to manage and maintain the facility. Then we have the build, operate, maintain, share, and transfer, where the private partner that has been contracted builds, operates, and maintains a project while sharing government revenues with the public sector before transferring the ownership. Here we have an example of Isimba Public Bridge and the Isimba Public Bridge project under the Isimba hydropower plant, where the private partner built the bridge to enhance connectivity and access to the plant, operates it and maintains it to ensure safety and functionality, shares revenue with the government, and will transfer ownership and management to the Ugandan government after the concession period. Then we have the renovate and operate. Under here, the private sector refurbishes or renovates an existing public asset and operates it under a contract for an agreed period of time. Here we have the Kampala Serena Hotel project, where the private partner was contracted to refurbish the former Nile Hotel, upgrading it to a high-level end facility, which was meeting international standards. The private partner currently manages the hotel and operates and maintains it to generate income, while the government retains ownership and benefits from improved infrastructure and economic activity through partnership.
Hello, everyone. I'm called Isaac Nwamanya, and we're going to look briefly at the conventional PPP cycle. And this starts typically with the project inception, where most of the groundwork for the project is done. And it starts with the identification of a clear need or gap. This could be a infrastructure gap, or deficit, which cannot be met by or addressed by use of only public resources. So clearly indicating a need for the intervention of the private sector or resources. So it starts with a pre-feasibility study as well. And this is just to ensure that the project is feasible. And the key tasks as well in this project inception include project identification, where the scope and objectives of the project are defined clearly. Then a proposal is prepared, which is documenting all the details about the project. It is then submitted for different committee approvals by different government departments and committees. And thereafter, when it's given a go-ahead, it can then be officially registered. Then moves on to the feasibility study, where an assessment is done to ensure indeed that this project is feasible. And it starts with the recruitment of a transaction advisory service provider who leads this process of the feasibility study. The focus areas are technical feasibility. Are the resources, technical resources sufficient enough to take on this project? There's also financial feasibility, looking at the different methods of financing that will be available, and also the structure of the financing, equity, debt, to see if it will be enough to fund the project. Of course, the environmental assessment to see if the impacts of to see what the impact of this project will be on the environment, and if there are negative impacts, how they can be mitigated. And then, of course, socioeconomic feasibility. Will this project benefit the societies or the communities around where it's being implemented, and including as well a value for money analysis, where really the viability of the project being implemented by the PPP route, seeing whether it is better than actually implementing that project through the traditional procurement process. And of course, in addition to other return on investment forecasts and other regulatory compliance checks.
My name is Priscilla Pio, and the next phase in the PPP cycle is the PPP procurement. The PPP procurement includes sourcing for a private partner who will construct the assets, and hence it's very vital to choose the right person. The cycle starts with procurement planning. Under this, we get the requirements for the procurement, we start the budgeting process, and we build up the teams that will conduct the procurement. Bidding, we receive the different bids and we evaluate them. An evaluation committee from all the different, that includes the different participants, will be formed. The contract is awarded after an evaluation for the best evaluated bidder. And even before the contract is awarded, negotiations can go on with the best evaluated bidder to ensure that the government gets value for its money within the contract. Then we proceed to implement the contract and manage it. Implementing the contract includes drafting the PPP contract and managing the transactions till the financial close of the contract. From that, we proceed to project implementation. Project implementation is key to ensure that the private partner delivers services as per the agreed terms and to ensure seamless operations throughout the PPP contract. So under this, we need to manage the stakeholders, manage the private party, before and during, ensure clear communications, and to build trust. Implementation involves a skill team, recruiting a skill team, and allowing flexibility throughout the entire period, which should ensure the success of the PPP. Thank you.
My name is Arnold Buchom, and I will be taking you through the Timapa Okla Integrated Municipal Solid Waste Project Management System. The project basically addresses Delhi's escalating municipal solid waste crisis. And here we are looking to process 7,000 megatons of waste daily to generate renewable energy via the waste to energy technology. The PPP model that is going to be used is the build, own, operate, and transfer. The special purpose vehicle is the Timapa Okla Waste Management Company Private Limited. And the objective of this company is to provide a sustainable, cost-effective management solution while reducing landfill dependency. The project followed the conventional PPP cycle, starting with the project inception. A need identification was done, and it was discovered that Delhi experienced excessive waste accumulation with landfills reaching their capacity limits. A waste to energy solution was identified as the most feasible method to address the problem, while surrounding communities were guaranteed to benefit. The initial steps that were followed involved forming the SPV, registering with the United Nations Framework Convention for Climate Change, and a pre-feasibility study was conducted to ensure service delivery and the requirements needed to execute the PPP. The feasibility studies included technical evaluation, environmental, financial, the impact that the PPP was going to have on the social and economic, together with the risk analysis. The outcomes included the refuse-derived fuel conversion technology, which was selected because of its success in similar projects, and a financial feasibility was established with mixed equity debt funding and revenue streams from power cells, carbon credits, and zero cost to waste supply. The procurement
from where my colleague has stopped, James Kasumbi is my name, and I'm starting straight away from the procurement process. It was based on a transparent international competitive bidding where different companies across the globe were actually solicited to come and submit in their bids. Publications were made via roadshows and knowledge sharing sessions. And the outcome of that, a number of actually companies were selected, but out of them, only 6 were evaluated. And out of 6, Jindal Urban Infrastructure Limited was selected based on the lowest tariffs. Later, clearances were obtained from government departments, which ensured readiness. In terms of project implementation, looking at technological approach, an advanced waste-to-energy technologies ensured efficiency in waste processing, and as well as enhancing sustainability with a concession period of 25 years, given a provision of mutual renewal basing on performance. In terms of risk allocation, the SPV assumed 60% of the risks, while the rest assumed the remaining 40% of the risks. Looking at challenges that were faced, in terms of regulatory delays, it is important to note that almost 3 years were spent on soliciting for clearances and no objection certificates, highlighting a high level of bureaucratic inefficiencies. In terms of initial stakeholder engagement, insufficient initial engagement resulted into public resistance, especially looking at environmental concerns. Technological acceptance also, misunderstanding of RDF technology was created, basing on its adoption. In terms of waste supply and accountability, there was variability in municipal waste supply, which reduced efficiency. And looking at environmental concern, basing on the idea that actually this project was located in the residential area, it raised a number of pollution and health-related impact issues. Looking at critical success factors, it is important to note that thorough project preparation, looking at the technical and financial evaluation, is needed to ensure project attractiveness, and this was the case with this project. There was also government support with clear frameworks and strong backing, which reduced bureaucratic obstacles. Then, in terms of technology selection, there was proven location, a specific technology, which ensured operational success. And in terms of effective stakeholder engagement, it was important to note that transparency and community involvement, especially at an earlier stage, improved project acceptance. Defined accountability mechanism, there was clear rules for waste supply and penalties that ensured operation reliability. And finally, the financial viability, which was expressed in terms of multiple revenue streams, which enhanced financial sustainability.
My name is Nsasire Bernard. Taking it from there, the lessons learned under this project, we have stakeholder engagement. Early and transparent consultation prevents resistance and ensures smoother implementation. Another point under the lessons learned is safeguards. Compliance with the norms, the community norms, and builds trust and ensures long-term success of the project. And advanced risk management. Because when you're addressing the technical and financial, the social risks are present, and the delays with the cost overruns. Another point on that, it is contractual flexibility. Flexible agreements, allow for adjustments to unforeseen challenges. And then about this case wrap up, the Timapur Okla project demonstrates the potential of PPs to deliver sustainable waste management solutions, despite the challenges faced through thorough preparation, technological innovation, and effective collaboration drove its success. The project provides a template for future initiatives, emphasizing the importance of stakeholder engagement and risk management with environmental compliance.
Thank you so much, Benon, and I will introduce case study 10, which is about Kakinada Deep Water Port, and we'll see a lot of abbreviations on KDWP to mean the same. So this is a part of the Kakinaga Port system in Andhra Pradesh in India. That includes Kakinada Anchorage Port, Fishing Harbour, and Shipbreaking Unit. So the port was commissioned in 1997 November by the government of Andhra Pradesh, and we see it being privatized in the 1999. So that was when it was privatized to the SPV that we will be seeing below. The model that was used then was operate, maintain, share, and transfer, and also build, operate, maintain, share, and transfer, as my colleagues have discussed above. So the purpose of this privatization was to really enhance the operational efficiency, attract private investment, and expand the infrastructure to meet growing cargo traffic demands at the port by then. We will then introduce the cycle and how it was implemented. At project inception, we saw the stakeholders involved here do a lot of need identification. And what was mentioned then was, what was highlighted was the capacity, the lack of financial and technical capacity to develop the port infrastructure fully by the government at that time. That's why it felt the need to introduce a private party to take on this aspect. The master plan envisioned expanding KDWP from 3 berths to 15 berths, requiring over a high amount of investment, which the government at that time was unable to afford. So bringing a private party would also attract a financial benefit to this project. So we see the stakeholders involved. We see the government itself, government of Andhra Pradesh. We see Kakinaga Seaport Limited involved. That's like KSPL. And it formed a consortium under which this privatization was run. We see the financials as being Asian Development Bank, which provided the loan for initial infrastructure to be done.
Thank you, my colleague, Brunia. I'll start with the cycle. I'll continue with the cycle. Brunia has given us a hint. About the feasibility studies, the areas evaluated, collaborate.
I think we've lost one.
Studies that were done, evaluations, and the missed opportunities, a lack of comprehensive feasibility studies led to overly optimistic traffic projections, creating initial financial and operational challenges. Of course, they did not carry out so much studies on the traffic, which led to a strain in their finances. Then the procurement process, international competitive bidding was carried out. 4 consortia were shortlisted from 14 that came through. And International Seaports PTE Limited won based on technical and the financial criteria. The evaluation criteria that was done: technical, traffic forecasts, master plan quality, cost estimates, operational productivity, and organizational setup. Financial, they did revenue sharing, minimum guaranteed amounts, and investment plans. So the outcomes of the above were they had a concession agreement that was signed in March 1999 with the KSPL to manage and expand the port. So the private entity was given the port to manage it and expand it. We continue with the cycle, this project implementation. The phased approach, they went through 2 phases. The first phase was to operate and maintain 3 existing berths. The berths that were there were supposed to be maintained. And then the phase 2 was to construct a 4th one. The amendments 2003 and 2009, MBA replaced with revenue sharing, eliminating financial strain. So the government was supposed to share with the private entity. Concession extended from 20 to 30 years with 2 optional 10-year extensions. The private entity was permitted to undertake additional developments, such as the 5th berth, as we saw it in the phases. We continue with the implementation, the achievements that we got under the operations: efficiency gains. The vessel turnaround time reduced to 1 day because they were working 24/7. The traffic growth, cargo that was handled, rose from 5.6 million tons to 14.5 million tons. The revenue sharing, of course, they were supposed to share, the government and the private entity that was given to run the project. Certifications, they achieved the ISO and the OHSAS compliance. Then the exit phase, there was an agreement that as they were exiting, as the project was, they were done with the project, they were supposed to, the immovable assets were supposed to be transferred to the government free of charge. And then the movable assets were to be transferred at a book value. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. Good evening, everyone. My name is David Sandy Kayanja. We're going to look at the challenges of Kakinda Seaport Limited. Unrealistic traffic projections. The Kakinda Seaport Limited tried to expand its berth to around to accommodate 3,000 tons of cargo, but this was not achieved in the long run. Now, these overestimated volumes led to revenue shortfalls and also financially constrained the project. The minimum guarantee amount obligations, the government of Andresh Pradesh required 30%, 50% of the monies generated by Kakinda Seaports Limited. However, when this did not happen, it created financial pressure that required negotiation for viability. Then there are regulatory restrictions. Realize that most of the selling cargo at Kakinda Seaports Limited was wheat flour and sugar that was handled by the Anchorage port. However, this was not allowed by the government. The government did not allow Kakinda Seaports Limited to handle cargo, which was approximately 70%, as stated in the tender forms. These restrictions reduced competitiveness and strained operations. The social unrest, as I mentioned earlier, the workers at the Anchorage port striked because Kakinda Seaport was trading one of the commodities like wheat that were best selling at that point. So these strikes led to workers to disrupt activities. Then the technical gaps. You realize that Kakinda Seaport Limited was a brownfield. So they never did due diligence, and this led to unforeseen asset repair and dredging costs. The competition. When you look at the newer ports of Kavanam and Krishnapanam, they were strategically located. They had better facilities. Now, this made Kakinda Seaport Limited not to come out well, and this competition made Kakinda Seaport Limited not to get a lot of revenue as it had projected. I think these are, okay. These are benefits. Okay, what Kakinda Seaport Limited gained, the flexibility and agreements. You realize that the government of Andhra Pradesh eliminated the minimum guarantee amount and also extended the concession terms, ensuring continuity. The concession terms were expanded from 20 to 30 years, and also a possible renewal of 20 years, but subdivided into 10 years each. So such concession terms ensured continuity of the project. The public-private collaboration, the fact that the members of Kakinda Seaport Limited and the government of Andhra Pradesh were able to sit down and agree on some things, also helped in the negotiations that maintain the viability of the project. Then operational enhancements. You realize that Kakinda Seaports Limited improved its efficiency and cargo handling capacity. Realize that the return on capital employed increased to around 35%, and also the profit after tax increased to around 23%. Now, this meant that there was increase in revenue for Kakinda Seaports Limited. The strategic location, since Kakinda Seaports Limited was within the industrial hubs, it and also the multimodal transport connectivity supported growth of the project, and also the cargo volumes rose from around 500 to around 5,000. So this promoted growth. Then the phase development. You look at Kakinda Seaport Limited constructing the fourth and the fifth bit. Now this matched the demand, which optimized resource use. What key lessons do we learn from this? Number one, you always have to ensure clarity and fairness throughout the bidding process and the concession process to avoid disputes that we saw that happen at Kakinda Seaports Limited. Comprehensive due diligence, especially when you are conducting the detailed technical and risk assessments before privatizing assets. Because as I mentioned earlier, you realize that Kakinda Seaports Limited was a brownfield as compared to the other new ports that were greenfields already. Then the balanced agreements. It's always important to avoid revenue maximizing clauses, because if you don't do that, you overburden the private operators, and this causes a strain on them. Stakeholder engagement. If the government had engaged the community about the Kakinda Seaport Limited, it would have been easier for the Kakinda Seaports Limited to operate. So early and continuous involvement of communities and labor groups mitigates resistance. Then also flexibility and negotiation. The contracts that allow for adjustments help the PPEs to overcome the challenging conditions and challenges. Then focus on competition. It is important to offer competing terms in order to remain viable in the face of emerging projects. You can see that Kakinda Seaport Limited faced a lot of competition from the new ports that were strategically located and had better facilities. So it's always important to give competitive terms to PPPs so that they remain viable in the face of emerging projects. Then sustainability measures. So compliance with the environmental standards is very important, because this ensures that the PPEs are following the rightful laws and standards as required by the government.
Well, in conclusion, we noticed that the Kakinada Deepwater Port project really demonstrates both the challenges and advantages of PPPs in infrastructure development. So we see challenges like unrealistic revenue projections and regulatory inflexibilities. However, we also see that collaborative amendments, operational improvements, and strategic investments ensured its success. So this case provides valuable lessons for future PPP initiatives, emphasizing transparency, stakeholder collaboration, and adaptability as pillars of sustainability.
So in all what my colleagues have mentioned, to wrap up these cases, we can clearly see that public-private partnerships offer an innovative approach to addressing infrastructure and service delivery challenges, while blending both public accountability in terms of government oversight and also private sector efficiency and investment. So the case studies of Timapo Okla Integrated MSW Project and Kakinada Deepwater Port highlight three areas majorly of the potential of PPPs. Number one, addressing critical public needs, as we had seen the need for to address the issue of rising waste in case study 5, and the need to address the increasing traffic in case study 10. Number two, leveraging private sector expertise and financing. We also see that was evident. And number three is fostering innovation and sustainable development, especially for case study 5, where there was innovation in terms of converting this excess waste into generation of electricity, which also meant sustainability in terms of capacity to handle the excess waste.
Our key takeaways from both cases, there were challenges such as stakeholder resistance from the strikes, the surrounding areas and the workers, financial strain from the poor forecasts that were made, and regulatory delays underscore the need for clear frameworks, robust planning, and transparent communication. Success factors such as flexible agreements to allow for any adjustments from unforeseen challenges and to ensure continuity within the PPE are needed. Thorough due diligence throughout the entire PPP process and effective collaboration ensure viability and long-term benefits for all the parties involved. Lessons learned, we need to emphasize the importance of adaptability, stakeholder relationship, and focus on delivering value for money to ensure economic efficiency and effectiveness of the PPP. As a closing thought from Group 5, by integrating structured planning, collaborative partnership, and innovative solutions, PPPs serve as a powerful tool to bridge gaps in the public service delivery, setting benchmarks for sustainable infrastructure development globally. Thank you very much.